Thomas graduated from the University of Virginia. She went to Fairview High up in Boulder. She's perfect. A few years ago, Dennis, she asked me, she was in Washington, when we were going to have a woman president. And I said, by the time you're my age, we will have had a woman president. And Dan, she gave me this penetrating look, like I was completely off base. And she said, by the time I'm your age, we're going to have had 3 women presidents. I'm looking forward to being on Dan Pabone's coattails next year. Y'all can help me. And I think I've got this right. HD4 has the most heavily concentrated group of Democrats. Is that right? In the most heavily Democratic county. So this is the center of the universe.
Is that true?
There's so many folks here that I've got to know who've befriended me and supported me. I'm going to do something that's a little dangerous. I want to talk about it, just mention a couple of them, and they're a little bit more on the old-timer side like I am. I know Becky Brooks back here. We go way back. It's great to see Becky here. She's phenomenal. She's savvy. She really knows what's going on under the surface in places like the legislature. And I also know Mike Servos here, the great leader of the AFL-CIO, who looks after working people every day.
Yeah, I'm Michael.
Awesome. Thank you.
Former HDT.
Yeah. I also saw Ellis is here, is he not? Where's Ellis? Has Claire McCaskill taken him home yet? I don't know if you all went to the dinner a few weeks ago, but Claire McCaskill's in love with Ellis, so she's trying to take him to Missouri. We gotta keep him here. What do you think? We're keeping him here, right? Okay.
Oh, you said his daughter.
Let me just thank everybody for inviting me tonight. I thought I'd share a few of my perspectives for a few minutes, and then we'll get on to the rest of the program and honor the people that really make our party operate and be successful. I think about Dennis Gallagher and his great Irishness. I think about our party, and there's that long life story about the Irishman walking down the alley late at night, and a big fight comes spilling out of a pub, and he grabs one of the fighters and said, "Look, is this a private fight, or can anybody get in?" That's what I think about when I think about Democrats, and I think about Dennis Gallagher. Thomas Jefferson, I don't think he was an Irishman, I think he was an Englishman, but he famously said, you know, I can't do his words justice because he was, after all, the author of the Declaration of Independence, but he said a true patriot is someone who loves his country, I'm going to add her country, not just for what it is, but for what it could be. And I think that's at the core of what motivates us as Democrats, but I think more as Coloradans and certainly ultimately as Americans. And each day we work to make that promise of the Declaration of Independence. And being here with you all reminds me truly why I get on that airplane every Monday morning and travel to Washington, D.C. And I've said over and over again, Washington can learn a lot from how we work here in Colorado. If we had more people like you all in Colorado, I'm sure we would have bridged the partisan divide a long time ago and taken the steps that are necessary to move our great country forward. And I think again about Dan Pabon, and I know Reverend Guzman is not here, I think, but Lucia is a part of what you represent, not just here, but in Washington, D.C. I'm just so proud to talk about what we've done here in Colorado. We have a dynamic state. We have a dynamic state politically and economically and policy-wise. And again, I just want to underline how you all are what keep us moving forward. And I go back to the election, and we had fun, didn't we, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
We had fun. And many of you heard me say on the campaign trail that if you want to put your car, I should say this another way, if you want to go forward, you put your car in D, right? If you want to go backwards, where do you put it in? So, Colorado, we want to put not only our country in D, we want to keep it in drive. We want to move the country forward. We saw that last November. It's a great year. Another way I put it, and I say this even though there are a few people like me here long in the tooth. Doug Linkard, I'm not talking about you.
Doug's here.
But the 21st century won on November 6th. The diversity that's American, I see it around this room. That's why I'm proud to be a Democrat. We include everybody, every community, every religion, every culture, every race. And that was what the election was about. 21st century won an election night. We reelected Barack Barack Hussein Obama. I'll say his full name.
Yes.
We elected our own Diana Gett, Ed Perlmutter, and Jared Polis back to the U.S. House. We showed that Coloradans don't believe our country is divided into takers and makers, that we don't relegate people to categories like the 47%. In fact, I was saying the other day, I'm glad to be with you 98%. I'm proud to be a part of the 98%. But we have a lot of work left to do. John mentioned this, Dennis mentioned this, to make sure that we keep our country on the right track in 2014. So what does that mean? What does that hold for us? Well, we're going to, I have no doubt, with HD4 leading the way, elect and re-elect people who've been a part of that movement, elect people who've been a part of that leadership. I believe we can win back the United States House of Representatives. We've got a real opportunity here in House District 6. I'm all excited to see Andrew Romanov back on the battlefield.
Yeah.
We're going to hold the State House and the State Senate, right, Dan? Reverend Guzman will tell you the same thing. We've got a challenge on the state senates. We have a lot of retirees, some great people like Gail Schwartz, John Morse are going to be retired under our term limits laws, which I think will do well. We don't need term limits, but that's what we have. We're going to re-elect the governor, and with your help, I'm going to get re-elected in the United States Senate. Can I count on your help? Dan knows me well. People sometimes like me a little, I don't know if I'm being honest, but maybe a little disclosive. People underestimate me. They think I'm a nice guy. I'm a big brother. I have six siblings. But Wally Steele put it pretty well, Becky, when I was down in Pueblo. He said, Mark Udall's a nice guy, but he's a tough SOB when you scratch the surface. So I want to say this. I've won 8 elections. I'm going to win a 9th one next year.
All right.
We're all violently agreeing we're going to do well next year, that we've got a lot at stake. Let me tell you where the country is today. Let me take stock of where we are. Our economy's on the rebound. The stock market is strong, and we're creating good-paying American jobs. We Coloradans understand in order to keep that up, we've got to be innovators. We've got to take the best ideas from both the public and the private sectors. Just think about what's happened. American manufacturing has stepped up its game. General Motors is back and better than ever. Vice President Biden put it this way on the campaign trail. He said, Osama bin Laden is dead, General Motors is alive. Remember that? That was spot on. You've got to keep that in mind. I just saw Mr. Pabon. I saw Richie Pabon is here. Richie Pabon, stand up and take a bow, everybody. Love this guy. Love this guy. So let me go back to the economy. Sorry I got off. I think it was important to acknowledge Mr. Pabon. He's been so good to me and such a friend. If we're going to have future growth in our economy, we have to be flexible, and we have to create a climate where the business community has more certainty, and we can focus on creating jobs and getting America back to work. And our country and our state have had a proud history of creating opportunities for entrepreneurs from all over the world by giving them a home to innovate and grow. And while I'm optimistic that this legacy will continue, we simply can't afford to overlook the talent of the individuals sitting in our schools right now. Students looking to stay in our country and achieve the American dream. My fellow Coloradans, let me say this. While Washington makes slow progress towards passing the DREAM Act and comprehensive immigration reform, our state is ahead of the pack once again. Because of your voices, your hard work, the state legislature passed the Asset Act, and Governor Hickenlooper signed it into law. What a day for the state of Colorado. What a day for our country. This is common sense. It's long overdue. And it means that high-achieving Colorado students, regardless of their immigration status, will have one less barrier to building a future in the only country they know, the United States of America. And I think we ought to call people who are in this category, Dan, not illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants. We ought to call them aspiring citizens.
Sounds good.
So you've been following the talks in in Washington about how we should move forward with immigration reform. It has to be comprehensive. And we have to be really thoughtful and humane and family-oriented in the way we proceed. Many of you here have shared your concerns with me either in person, over the web, or with, where's Tara Trujillo? You all know Tara Trujillo? They're wonderful. There's Tara Trujillo. You should know Tara Trujillo. She's a key part of my staff. Don't hold it against her. She's from Pueblo. Tara is always willing to listen. As you know, she's out in all of our communities as my eyes and ears. But some of you, through Tara, through the website, directly to me, have shared your concerns that some of the ideas that are being batted around just aren't prudent. Specifically, the idea that comprehensive immigration reform and the DREAM Act would be on ice until Southwestern governors and a handful of others decide our borders are fully secure. And I've also heard concerns that some ideas would create a system where eligibility for citizenship or residency would be highly dependent on how skilled an immigrant is. Well, let me tell you this. It's not okay with me that comprehensive immigration reform can't move forward until we get a permission slip from Southwestern governors to fix our broken immigration system. It's not okay with me to create a two-tiered class system for citizenship. All law-abiding people ought to have a valid pathway to citizenship. So with your help, with your fortitude, with your belief, I'm going to continue to push my colleagues in Washington, D.C. to set aside their partisanship, pass the DREAM Act, and pass comprehensive immigration reform once and for all. So I'm so proud of what's been happening in the state legislature. With Representative Pabon's leadership, Senator Guzman's leadership, we passed a civil unions bill earlier this month, which was long overdue. And I think, Dan, it's very appropriate to acknowledge our wonderful speaker and Representative Schaefer, as well as Senator Stead and many others for the work that was done. And that picture will stick with me for a long time of all of them standing behind the governors. He smiled at the legislation with everybody else smiling behind him. Think about it. There's just no doubt that we're a stronger country when all committed couples are able to take responsibility for each other and their families under our laws. But civil unions are not enough. I say that again, civil unions are not enough. And that's why I've joined the fight against the Discriminatory Defense of Marriage Act. A few weeks I was proud to stand with you and sign a legal brief urging the U.S. Supreme Court to strike down the Defense of Marriage Act. If we can repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, we can take down the Defense of Marriage Act too. See, Regent Kerrigan back there, I remember Elizabeth Birch, who had the Human Rights Campaign for many years. She said famously about a member of Congress by the name of Bob Barr, who's actually seen a little bit of the light recently, who'd been married 3 times and was the proponent and advocate of the Defense of Marriage Act. She said, Congressman Barr, I'm curious, which one of your marriages are you defending? Your first marriage, your second marriage, or your third marriage?
Very good.
I'm going to keep fighting, I know you all are, until all couples, regardless of who they love, can affirm to their friends, neighbors, and communities their shared responsibilities and commitments. Nothing less, and I mean nothing less than true marriage equality is acceptable. That's the bottom line. But all of these achievements and all of our efforts to create jobs or fight for equality or push immigration reform, none of it will matter if our children are not safe. And here in Colorado, we know from Columbine to Aurora how mass shootings and gun violence can shatter lives and scar our communities. We also understand that doing nothing is no longer acceptable. I stubbornly believe we can reach a compromise. We can respect the Second Amendment, and we can protect our children. You all led the way in the last several weeks in Colorado, and now to be our job on Capitol Hill to make progress that's equal to the progress that's been made here in Colorado. I'm proud to be your senator. I'm proud to bring Colorado's common sense, can-do attitude to Washington. And despite what seems to be that city's dysfunction, we've accomplished some important goals in Washington. By the way, I turn off Fox News and CNN. I even turn off MSNBC sometimes so you get a little peace of mind and get a little perspective. As much as I love MSNBC. So let me share some of those accomplishments with you so you leave here with an upbeat sense of what the future holds. With you helping me out, because of the work I put forward on the production tax credit, wind energy manufacturers like Vestas are rehiring in cities like Brighton and Pueblo and leading us to a clean energy future. Because of your support, Democrats led the charge to renew the Violence Against Women's Act, which if you all don't know what that act does, it's really important. It provides critical support for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and horrible crimes that too many women are forced to endure. Finally, the Republicans in the House came to their senses and joined the Senate in passing this critical legislation. This is 20 years after our heroine, my friend, and our Congressman Pat Schroeder moved the Violence Against Women Act through the Congress. So let's give Pat a big round of applause. Yes. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble, but you remember Pat said I had a brain and a uterus, so I could use them both. I've also fought on your behalf to strengthen and affirm our constitutional liberties. I made sure that our emails and our phone calls are not being surveilled through warrantless searches and ways in which I can't even tell you, given I sit on the Intelligence Committee. Our government oversees what we do. And although I agree with the President on many things, I'm going to keep pushing him and his administration to be more transparent about when and how we use drones to target U.S. citizens. Ben Franklin put it well, and by the way, I live by this credo. He put it well when he said, "Those who would sacrifice essential liberties for short-term security deserve neither." Yep. The biggest, baddest weapon we have, and I sit on the Armed Services Committee as well, is not our military, although what a wonderful set of Americans who serve us in places far from. It's not our economy, which is the strongest in the world. And by the way, those who would talk down our economy, those who would talk down America are going to lose that bet. They always have. But our strongest weapon is the Bill of Rights. It's our belief in the dignity of human beings. It's in the first sentence of the Declaration of Independence: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We just have to keep that in mind. We will always prevail. And that's what Franklin reminds us. So let me look ahead for just a minute or two more. You've been kind in listening to me. I'm excited about what we can accomplish this year and in the next 3.5 years under President Obama's leadership. Let me start with this. We're going to pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and ensure that our mothers and our sisters and our daughters receive equal pay for equal work. We're going to continue making big strides towards the United States being energy independent by developing alternative energy sources and building on the new energy economy, which we have in spades here in Colorado. We're going to find common sense ways to affect and reduce global warming. Global warming is happening. All you have to do is look at our forests and our ground and our fires. It's time to do something. It's time to do something. And as importantly, we're going to find ways to strengthen our economy and reduce our federal budget deficit, and I'm looking right at Mike Servo, while looking out for the hardworking middle-class people who make America what it is. We can do that also investing in our infrastructure and research and development that drives new energy products and new medical technologies, and ensuring that all of our young people have a chance to be educated. So we can do that. We can do that. So let me, again, thank you for the honor of being your United States Senator. I think John mentioned I was a senior senator. He didn't say senior citizen. I was worried he was going to. I'm also proud to be on the cusp of being Medicare eligible. I'm on the right side of 60. That means I'm not in my 50s for all you young people here. But I want to tell you, the honor that I carry is because of the inspiration I get from the work that you all do. The work you do as patriots, knowing that this is a great country, and this country could be even more. Democrats in the West at times have been in danger, as you all know. And I grew up in Arizona. My mom was in Colorado. My mom grew up just over here near Cherry Street. My dad met my mother when he played ball for the Nuggets in the late 40s. And they went back to Arizona, but I always had deep roots here in Colorado. I've got Platte River and Colorado River blood in my veins. But in Arizona, tough sledding there when it snowed for Democrats. My dad used to love to tell the story. Some of you knew my dad, Udall, my tape.
Yes.
Almost as much inspiration as my mother. My mother was really an inspiration. He used to tell us of a little town in Arizona, up in the north. In every election, there would be one vote for all the Democrats on the ballot. So you'd have 168 votes for all the Republicans and one vote for the Democrat. So they filled the various slots. Everybody suspected Old Man Whiting. Old Man Whiting got older and older, and he finally went to meet his maker. 2 weeks later, there was an election. Lo and behold, that same one vote was still on the ballot as they tabulated the votes for the Democrats. The local paper's headline, later that because it's a weekly newspaper, "Wrong Man Buried." The point is, they're never going to bury us, are they? Yeah. Democrats are here to stay. Democrats believe in this country. Democrats are the 21st century party. You here in HD4 represent all of that. I'm really proud of you. Thank you for inviting me tonight. Let's go win next year. Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you again, Senator. We will now do two more.